Today is the 6th day of this April 1985 7-day retreat. Maybe later during the talk we will get to reading in the writings of Wang Po. But first, let us talk a bit about wanting. It comes up all the time. As one person put it, there doesn't seem to be a thought in the mind that either comes from wanting or creates wanting. What is wanting? And can wanting itself be observed within oneself? Not just talked about, or judged, or justified, or accepted, but seen as it functions from moment to moment. The word wanting is a good descriptive word because it expresses both wanting as a feeling of lack and wanting to fulfill that lack. Or just wanting to fulfill, or to have, to be someone of importance or worth. To own, to possess. How does wanting come into being? One asks this question and is really wondering about it. Wanting. During sitting, maybe nothing much happening, there's a sense of boredom. Something comes in the mind, maybe the memory of a beautiful trip one took, and wanting to live through that again, and the wanting creating and recreating the trip, or creating future trips that one can take. And seeing oneself go through the landscape, climb the mountain, or swim in the water. And the whole mental and physical process, one of wanting that. If it's before a meal time, or any time during the day that one feels hunger, meaning there's a low blood sugar level, some funny feelings in the spot of the stomach. Then the idea of food coming up, the picture of it, and seeing oneself consume it in large quantities. And the whole organism is, go get it. There was just the feeling and no food around, and one was just attending to the feeling of hunger, then pictures wouldn't be created in the mind of food because the attention was on how one was feeling. I'm not saying you should pay attention to that. I'm just saying that if there was the attention with the feeling of weakness, or what we describe as hunger, not even calling it hunger, then no pictures would arise in the mind of food, and there would not be this process of wanting set into motion. Feeling heard and imagining a way of getting back at a person. The system starts going in agitation, wanting to have an apology or having things set right. All the apparatus of thinking is set into motion, wanting to get one's just due. Anything one sees, either in one's mind's eye or one meets up with it as one is walking through the streets, seeing a beautiful lamp in the shop window. Is there just the seeing? Or does one see that lamp in a certain spot at one's window in the room, and there's wanting it? One may not have the money to buy it, but the thought returns of that lamp and seeing it in that spot and wanting it. There was just the seeing of the lamp as it is. Would there be wanting it? Or does the thought of going in there, buying it, putting it, carrying it home, putting it in that spot, and friends or neighbors admiring it, is that what creates wanting? So with an attractive person whom one may meet, can one just see that person? The attractiveness, good-lookingness, whatever strikes one, and just leave it there? Or is the imagination how it would be to be with that person, etc., and then wanting to be with that person? It is the imagination that creates the desire. This is very easily observed for oneself. There's a koan where someone asks a teacher, what is the truth? And the response is the flowering hedge, or a hedge full of flowers. How does one see a hedge full of flowers, or just one flower in that hedge? Hedge of wild roses. Pretty soon there will be some here in the fields, pink and white wild roses. How does one look at a wild rose in a hedge. Can the looking, smelling its fragrance be complete in itself? Or does the thought arise, I'd like to pick one, carry it home? And seeing that, and seeing, putting it in a vase, or putting it in one's clothes or into the hair, creates wanting. Or one may think, what a beautiful picture it would make, and there's wanting to have the camera. And if one has the camera, taking a picture of it, is there then also imagining how this picture will come out, how one would show it? Maybe people will admire it. And wanting that admiration. None of this is said judgmentally, as if we start judging this process, we will not be able to observe it properly, accurately, and learn about wanting. What is it to see a flower or a tree? A flower, let's stay with a flower. So completely that there's nothing that comes in between, nothing that projects into the future, nothing that even knows what it is. The name may come up, but one can see very easily that the name is not this flower. Any knowledge about it that may come up in the mind is not what is right before one. How does one see what is right before one? Is it possible for the mind to be so still? So quiet and so motionless? And spacious? That there's no wanting. In hearing a description of a mind in which there is no wanting, in which there is stillness and spaciousness, does one want to have that mind? That wanting is motion and noise, agitation, drive, projection of images. I think if one watches carefully how one lives from moment to moment, one will find that whenever there is a sense of self, of me in any form, in any image whatsoever, there is also wanting. And fearing. To go together. Because wanting to have something for oneself goes with the fear that one may not get it or that one may lose it, or that someone else will get it before one. Long as the sense of self, the self-image dominates the mind, isn't there always wanting to be somebody or something? Or not wanting to be something or somebody? And the fear of how one will look to others. Wanting to look good and fearing to look bad. Wanting to look attractive and afraid of looking unattractive. Wanting to be noticed or acknowledged and fearing to be overlooked, slighted. All of this coming from the sense of me, which is always wanting. In looking at a flowering rose, can that looking be so complete that there is no sense of self? No self that's wanting or lacking or needing, just the seeing and all stillness and emptiness of self-image? Is it possible? We will read some selections today and maybe also tomorrow from the Zen teaching of Wang Po as collected and translated by John Blofeld. The selections that are being read have been edited by myself, leaving out words or paragraphs or sentences, at times changing words. Wang Po writes a lot, uses a lot the word Buddha and Dharma, both of them standing for truth, clarity, non-division. and often several paragraphs are skipped. Here it says, the writings were collected, or the sayings were collected by a student who was also a scholar and a government official in the area where Wangpo was teaching. And all the dialogues, we won't come to any dialogues today, are held between this student, Pei Su, and Wangpo. This all took place in the 9th century, I believe, in China. The master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. Here this one mind is capitalized. As we read and listen, maybe it will become clear what this one mind refers to. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow, and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. Comparing, measuring, naming, being the function of the brain, as we can observe it in ourselves from moment to moment. So frequently comparing ourselves with others and coming out either at the short end or the long end, either feeling superior then or inferior. How do I measure up to my standards? Or he is not measuring up to standards. This is the mind of thinking, conceptualizing, evaluating and judging. And it is not this one mind that Wangpo is talking about. He says it is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is that which you see before you. With what kind of seeing we were just talking about? Seeing which immediately creates wanting, or just seeing? With a mind that is still in attending. He says it is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured or known with the intellect. The one mind alone is the Buddha, or is truth. And there's no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and seek externally for Buddhahood. And so seek externally for Buddhahood, for enlightenment, for liberation, for freedom, through ways and attachment to forms, he says. Techniques or ceremonies or scriptures. By their very seeking, they lose it, for that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, it will appear before them. Hearing that, is there the desire coming up to stop conceptual thought so that it will appear before one? Or is there just listening and not knowing how to go about it? Says here, it is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. And he goes on and says, as to performing the 6 parameters, footnote here says this is performing of good deeds like charity, morality, patience under affliction, zealous application, right control of the mind, and the application of the highest wisdom. These are virtues that are being taught as being good for getting on the way toward enlightenment. He says, as for performing these and vast numbers of similar practices, or gaining merits, as countless as the sands of the Ganges, since you're fundamentally complete in every respect, you should not try to supplement that perfection by such meaningless practices. When there is occasion for them, then perform them. And when the occasion is past, remain quiescent. If you're not absolutely convinced that the mind is the Buddha, and if you're attached to forms, practices, and meritorious performances, your way of thinking is false and quite incompatible with the way. The mind is the truth, nor are there any other truths or any other mind. It is bright and spotless as the void, having no form or appearance whatever. To practice the 6 parameters and a myriad similar practices with the intention of becoming an enlightened one, thereby is to advance by stages. But the ever-existing truth is not a truth of stages. Only awake to the one mind, and there's nothing whatever to be attained. This is the real Buddha. Then he says, mind is like the void in which there's no confusion or evil, as when the sun wheels through it, shining upon the four corners of the world. For when the sun rises and illuminates the whole earth, the void gains not in brilliance, and when the sun sets, the void does not darken. It may be difficult to understand if one tries to intellectually take it apart. What it means is that seeing can be there whether the sun shines or not. Seeing is not dependent on the light of the sun, and it does not vanish in darkness of the absence of sunlight. The phenomena of light and dark alternate with each other, but the nature of the void remains unchanged. If you look upon Buddha as presenting a pure, bright, or enlightened appearance, or upon sentient beings as presenting a foul, dark, or mortal-seeming appearance, these conceptions resulting from attachment to form will keep you from supreme knowledge, even after passing as many eons as there are sands in the Ganges. There's only one mind, and not a particle of anything else on which to lay hold. If you students of the way do not awake to this mind substance, you will overlay mind with conceptual thought and seek truth outside of yourselves and remain attached to forms, pious practices, and so on, all of which are harmful and not the way to supreme understanding. Here at one point, in the middle of a talk, he says, the realization of the one mind may come after a shorter or longer period. There are those who, upon hearing this teaching, rid themselves of conceptual thought in a flash. This way of putting it is a dualistic way of putting it, as though there was someone who undertakes and succeeds in ridding himself of conceptual thought. But it isn't like that. It is the absence of the doer who wants to get rid of thought. The absence of will. Absence of wanting. Absence of self-image. Either of what one is or what one would like to become or be like. If that drops on its own, then there is this mind of spacious stillness, and fullness. He says there are others who do this after following through now he lists all kind of traditional ways, 10 beliefs, 10 stages, 10 activities, 10 bestowals of merit, 10 stages of progress. All of this is outlined by the scholars. And if one subscribes to this or vows to perform this, one may feel that one is doing something. But Huang Po says whether they transcend conceptual thought by a longer or shorter way, the result is a state of being. There is no pious practicing and no action of realizing. That there is nothing which can be attained is not idle talk. It is the truth. Moreover, whether you accomplish this in a single flash of thought or after going through the 10 stages of progress, it will be the same, for this state of being admits of no degrees and of no comparisons. Another time he says, our original nature is void, omnipresent, silent, pure. It is glorious and mysterious, peaceful joy. And that is all. Enter deeply into it by awakening to it yourself. That which is before you is it in all its fullness, utterly complete. See, in this kind of teaching of Huang Po, there's the glorious and repeated description of this state of mind in which there is no self, or wanting, or fearing. And yet, to want that and strive after it without understanding what it is that encases us, that holds us in bondage. Without understanding that, there will just be wanting and trying to find ways and techniques to get it. Just to see what is before one, not just the glorious flowering hedge or the hills and mountains bathed in the light of the rising or sinking sun, but the wanting. To see that with a mind that does not want to get rid of wanting, but just sees. Quietly. Is that possible? And if the seeing is not quiet but heavy, judgmental, comparative, can that too be seen in an instant? Without further judgment? It is this kind of seeing that reveals the truth about oneself. Whether it is the truth of anger or the truth of stillness. it is the seeing that matters and not what is seen. He says here, when in a single flash you attain realization, or there is an insight, when in a single flash there is an insight, you will only be realizing that which has been with you all the time. And by all the foregoing stages, you will have added to it nothing at all. You will come to look upon those eons of work and achievement as no better than unreal actions performed in a dream. That's why the Buddha said, I truly attain nothing from complete, unexcelled enlightenment. Because the question may come up again that we discussed the other day. If all effort is just dreamlike, then should I just do nothing? What does one mean when one says doing nothing? Does one mean giving up this work of looking into oneself, observing how one talks and relates and thinks and acts from moment to moment? Just resigning oneself to habit, compulsion, and living in just automatic habit. Or is doing nothing not reaching for ways and methods, but attending to what is actually going on without any artfulness? There's the word artless, doing it artlessly, simply. You may find that the momentum of habit is at times irresistible, but there can still be a tension of that fact, that one is flowing with the current of habit. And then when there is this moment of attention, is one just into the pleasure of the habit. It's too much fun or feels too good to really look, because at the moment of looking, something different takes place. Habit is revealed. And one doesn't just go on with what one was doing. Not out of intention, but out of attention. So what does it really mean to do nothing? Here in sitting, because this is where we are right now, can all the energies that usually go into wanting this and trying that and not wanting that, can they gather in not doing and not knowing? And just being there. He says, students of the way should understand that the four elements composing the body, meaning the body, at that time it was thought that four elements compose it. Today we have other ideas about it and theories. Students of the way should understand that the four elements composing the body do not constitute the self. That the self is not an entity. And that it follows from this that the body is neither self nor entity. One has such tremendous attachment to the body, such identification with it, with its good feelings and sick feelings. Great worry about it, great concern, which totally narrows the space of perception to just this small groove of my body. This may sound judgmental, it is not meant this way, it is actually so. When one is identified and concerned and worried over all the different functions of the body, there's no space to perceive or relate to much else. And then this feeling that this is my body. Who is the owner of it? Who possesses it? Is there such an owner? Or is that all thought? Self-image. Am I beating my heart? Am I circulating my blood? And all the incredibly complex functions that take place that we have no idea about. Sometimes when one sees a program of functioning of the brain or body or the growing of the embryo, the mind is just blown away. There's a whole universe of intelligent action taking place in this body, which we say is mine. And upon which we impose image after image. And then feel separated from other bodies, who are not different, not essentially different from our own. Our own? Who's the owner? Or is there just walking, breathing, eating, defecating, sleeping, and waking up in one flow of not owning? But just being. He says, moreover, the five aggregates composing the mind, these five aggregates are thinking, sensing, feeling, willing, and this whole stream of consciousness which includes all of that. That too does not constitute either a self or an entity. Hence it follows that the mind is neither self nor entity. He says there is only the mind source, limitless in extent and of absolute purity. What is the source of mind? It's easy to say that and mouth it, but what is it? One doesn't know. Can one remain with this not knowing? He says here to awaken suddenly to the fact that your own mind is truth, that there's nothing to be attained or a single action to be performed. This is the supreme way. It is only to be feared that you students of the way, by the coming into existence of a single thought, may raise a barrier between yourselves and the way. From thought instant to thought instant, no form. From thought instant to thought instant, no activity. No form means no, what we talked about before, no image coming up for which there's immediately wanting and desiring. The activity being the activity of going for it. Just letting this stream of thought pass by. Out of stillness into stillness. He says you need study no doctrines whatever, but learn only how to avoid seeking for and attaching yourself to anything. Where nothing is sought, this implies mind unborn. Where no attachment exists, this implies mind not destroyed. We will end here for today.